Good morning. Welcome to episode 2 of Big Idea Coffee Conversations. Today we're having our coffee inside because, well, it's raining. I guess, what do you expect? This is Pittsburgh. Our guest this week is Joanna Sutton, an EIR who has been at the Big Idea Center since before I came on board. For those of you just joining us here at the Big Idea Center, EIR stands for Entrepreneur in Residence, and our EIRs are here to help YOU. See what I did there? In all seriousness, our EIRs are a free resource to Pitt students who are looking for help at any point in their idea development journey. They're professionals in fields from technology development to market research and everything in between. And they're here to help you on your entrepreneurship journey. And I think that deserves a coffee toast, don't you? Thank you. So how can you get started? Stay tuned after my chat with Joanna to find out how you can set up an appointment. For now, we're going to take a look at how Joanna began her entrepreneurship journey and how she got involved with the beginnings of the Big Idea Center. All right, I'm here with Joanna Sutton, one of the Big Idea Center entrepreneurs in residence for this year and for ever since the Big Idea Center was really in existence. So I just want to say hi. Thank you for coming in today on this Zoom call.
Oh, you're very welcome. And you're right, I have been at the Big Idea Center and worked very closely with Babs in creating it a couple of years ago. So it's been wonderful to see all of the developments and progress that we've made in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I'll get started with my questions. One of my favorite questions to kind of start with, because everybody kind of has like a different answer, is what was the first thing you wanted to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, sure. So it's interesting. So I always, when I was in college anyway, I wanted to be a stockbroker on Wall Street in New York City. That was my goal. Obviously didn't end up there in any way, shape, or form, probably for a good thing. But, as I reflect on it now as an adult, I think maybe I kind of grew up in a small town in rural Pennsylvania. So I think that to me was my version of just the big city and doing something interesting and challenging. So I think lots of those things and characteristics have transpired in my career in terms of, moving to Pittsburgh, living in the city, being involved in innovation. So and kind of not having that day-to-day routine where things are kind of always different and changing. So lots of the characteristics, I think, of what I wanted to do have held true throughout my career. But I guess, as an 18-year-old, that was my version of what that would look like, which was being a stockbroker, which I'm sure I would have hated. So I'm so glad it didn't work out that way.
All right, cool. So now you kind of partially answered one of my next questions, which was what kind of drew you into the world of entrepreneurship, and how did you first get started in the worlds of innovation and entrepreneurship?
Sure. So I graduated with an accounting degree, and I went down the path of being a CPA. Got my license. I worked in a big audit firm for a couple of years. And I was in very traditional kind of an accounting and finance roles for the early part of my career. But I think I very quickly learned a couple of things. That one, I did not like the routine of just kind of every month, like closing the books, reporting on the numbers, showing what went wrong or what went well. That wasn't very interesting, wasn't very challenging. And I got bored with that probably within a year of being sort of in a company working in kind of that kind of role. So I think what drew me to sort of innovation was really that, in these accounting roles, you're always looking at forecasts and projections of what you want to do in the future, and you're putting together 3 to 5 year plans. And I think at some point I realized that I had no skills to help anybody achieve anything that they were putting together. So if it was like they had a 20% growth plan, I could put it in an Excel spreadsheet and make all the math work, but I didn't really, as an accountant, all my focus was looking back, what happened last month or last year? What went wrong, right? And so I think I got to the point where I feel like I personally would rather help figure out how to grow in the future or be better in the future. And look at it from that perspective than always kind of in the rearview mirror. So I was just fortunate enough to have some opportunities, in a large company. Well, it's very different than entrepreneurship. It does afford you some opportunities that I think would be otherwise hard to find. But I had a chance to go work in the R&D lab at Westinghouse about midway through my career. They wanted some business expertise because they felt like they could be a great complement to the sort of the technical expertise. So sort of reflecting on my own personal goals, I was like, yeah, I think this could be kind of fun and interesting. And at that point, I also then went and sort of developed and took some courses and seminars and things to really, I think, boost my own personal knowledge and skills of how innovation works and what makes it successful. And here we are today. So I took that, corporate experience and then translated that into something very similar in a kind of an academic environment.
Okay. So, I mean, we touched on the fact that you were there at the Big Idea Center really at the beginning, but how did you first get involved with the Innovation Institute kind of before coming on board for the Big Idea Center as an EIR?
Sure. So, I left Westinghouse about 5 years ago now. So if anyone's from the Pittsburgh area, they know that that company went through bankruptcy and a lot of issues. So at that time, so I left there, and then really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was pretty sure I didn't want to go back to like a large corporation. Like I had just maybe had enough, having been through sort of the struggles of bankruptcy was just more than I really wanted to take on again. But didn't want to relocate. So it was kind of like me trying to sort out my options of like, what do I want to do? How do I I really liked working with the technical teams in developing new products and taking these, very advanced technologies that ranged from, high-tech computational analysis, robotics, did a lot of with materials, metals, ceramics. So a lot of different areas, and I really liked that. So it was a little bit of like, okay, well, how do I leverage that and what can I do with that? And in just sort of happenstance of networking, because networking is a wonderful thing and a wonderful skill, I met Babs, and she kind of talked about what she did at the Big Idea Center, and that just kind of formed a small relationship. I started doing some work just being like a mentor in Randall. The first year I was really just a student, a mentor in Randall, or sort of in a volunteer basis. And then the opportunity to build the Big Idea Center came along, and I was like, this is just a perfect fit for me personally. And I think it's very similar in terms of being able to take my business skills and work with the teams that are technical and help package that together into making great businesses and great products.
Mm-hmm. So then kind of going right into it, what is your kind of favorite part about being an entrepreneur in residence, and how do you like helping teams kind of build their idea from the beginning?
Sure. So things I love about the students in particular is like their eagerness and enthusiasm to solve problems. So coming from, again, a background of, not to harp on a background of a big corporation, but you have a lot of seasoned veterans, people that had worked there 30, 35 years. I think you become a little bit hardened to the world. You've seen it, done it, been there, done that. So you can kind of get complacent, I think, in innovation a little bit inside a big corporation. And they don't like change. So it can be a bit of a haul all the time to innovate well. But students come with a wonderful enthusiasm that just comes with being young and naive and eager. And I think that part of it is so refreshing. And they're all very passionate about whatever their idea is. So I think what I personally am rewarded by being able to kind of take all my life's experiences in the business world of like, this is how things get done. These are how things work. Like, you do need to understand how the business world works if you want to be successful. And I think that's the piece that the students need to learn and figure out the most, because nobody knows that at 20. You haven't been in the business world. You haven't had a real job yet. So you need to learn that. And I think all of the entrepreneurs come with such wonderful background and experiences that, that's what we really have to impart, to not have to let the students learn all of that on their own. We can help guide them and shape them and figure out how to break down those barriers, right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess overall, in talking about your career, what is kind of your favorite project that you've worked on, and why was it a great project for you at the time or whenever you did it?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, so one of the projects that I worked on, so I think the things that make them good projects for me is just seeing results. So, kind of having that absolute confirmation that what you did was the right thing and that this thing is successful. So I had a team that they had created a kind of a new inspection technology. So they went in and expected a particular piece of equipment. We serviced commercial nuclear power plants, so did a lot of inspecting of really, really large, massive pieces of equipment. So they went in, did these inspections, but they had a lot of trouble. Their equipment was breaking, their equipment was failing, they weren't getting the results that they wanted. And I think and ultimately, I think the whole process when it started took about 9 days to do, which is very, very long. If your business is shut down and to inspect a piece of equipment, 9 days is a lot of lost time. They were ultimately, through a lot of innovation and analyzing kind of what the issues and problems were, able to get that down to about 36 hours. So now a business that had to be down 9 days can now be down like 3 days. And I think the rewarding parts about it were for me were, one, just that absolute success. It was like, yep, this was like bad and now it's good. And also that the team was, they had a lot of perceptions about what they thought the problems were that didn't really turn out to be true. When we started to really look at data and talk to people and look at what was happening, I think some of their perceptions were very different than reality. And the problem and the solutions were actually much easier than they expected. So they had all these like kind of very technical hypotheses about why things were not going well, but the solutions were like super simple, like very inexpensive to fix, and ultimately in a low cost way, fix this problem in a very, very simple way. So it's just that satisfaction, I think, of just working together, maybe having them realize that maybe what they perceived wasn't always the truth, and that we talk about customer discovery a lot, and it's the same thing. It's like talking, digging, really, really being honest with what the facts are telling you, and you can get great results. And it stands to this day that 'cause it's something that was very bad and was like this big black eye for the industry, turned into a positive.
Okay, so I guess then, kind of talking about that coaching and how important it is, to work on your process and always be kind of evolving. What is your kind of number one piece of advice for somebody who's just entering this space, or a student who doesn't really have knowledge of entrepreneurship? How would they get started, and what is the first thing that they should kind of do to get involved?
If you're just kind of getting started in entrepreneurship, I think there's a part of you that is, I think one of the special things about entrepreneurs or innovators is this drive to make the world a better place. That kind of has to come from just inside. It's like you have this burning desire to want to make the world a better place and fix whatever problem it is that you're passionate about. And I would, most entrepreneurs that I know, that the problem comes from a personal experience, whether it's a sick family member or something that happened to them growing up, or for whatever reason, it's like was what they want to make, better in the world. So I think always staying true to that is important. Staying true to the passion and the drive to want to fix that problem is very important. And I think there's a certain amount of stubbornness that has to go behind that to really persevere. But you have to balance it with like listening to facts. So how you fix that problem, that part you shouldn't be so married to. Like you should really be listening to your customers, what your customers want, what your customers can afford, how it's going to work for them, so that part of it needs to always be founded in customer discovery and listening and evolving and pivoting to really make a great product and make a great business, while never losing that passion underneath that this is the problem I want to solve. And I think if you feel driven by that, then you're going to make a great entrepreneur, because you're going to be incredibly rewarded when you can solve that problem and make the world a better place, just like you envision it to be.
Okay, so I do have a question. So we know that your son is coming to Pitt in the fall. So I am curious to know, is he interested in the world of innovation entrepreneurship? Have you tried to give him the pitch?
Yes, yes. So I'll be interested to see if he participates in any of the, Randall competitions and those kinds of things. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, he is very innovative in that sense and very driven. And is one of the reasons he actually wanted to stay in Pittsburgh. He really loved the idea of the startup communities in Pittsburgh and the opportunities that would present to him after graduation. It's a kid that, like, do I ever see him working in a big company? I just don't. Like, that is not his personality. He does better when he's kind of in control and in charge, and he's very creative, very motivated. And he's already done, like a few little things, like created some apps on his own and things like that. So I have great hopes that, he will ultimately kind of go down that path and be successful. I think, growing up, not that old, but even when, 20 years ago when I graduated from college, like, entrepreneurship wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing that was promoted. Your goal was to get a job in a big company. And that's kind of, I think, what my generation's parents encouraged us to do, because maybe they didn't have those opportunities. So it was like, that was their vision for our success. So I think that has evolved a lot. And there's just a lot more resources for students, I think, to go down those paths now.
All right, so that's kind of wrapping up most of the questions that I had for you for today. We definitely touched on a lot of topics, but I guess one thing I'll ask is if you had to pick a program for somebody to kind of get started with us at the Big Idea Center, what would that program be and why?
Sure. I would pick a Blitz. Now, I don't know what these are going to look like kind of moving forward in a new environment, but I think the weekend-long blitzes are one of the best ways to start. I think for a couple of reasons. One, it gives you a whole weekend to sort of meet the entrepreneurs and really see what we have to offer, and kind of what it's like to interact with us. You get to meet a lot of other students that are entrepreneurs, and so many students find teams that way. And that's really where I think they start and pick up that interest in entrepreneurship. But it's enough time to really see what it's like, and it's a kind of a low risk way, right? You're only committing a weekend. Randall's great, but it's a couple month long commitment, and I think can be a little bit overwhelming if you're not really sure, like, this is what your idea is, or if this is what you want to do. So weekend blitzes are definitely my recommendation for, like, the best way to get started.
Okay, great. Well, yes, I'm all finished, but thank you so much for sitting with me and talking for a little bit, and I look forward to the rest of the summer that we have going on and figuring out what we're going to do in the fall.
Yeah, me too. And I look forward to, it's wonderful to me that we have so many teams this year. I mean, it's just, I'm still kind of amazed that there's about 31 teams. We may not quite finish with 31, but that's, like, just wonderful to me to see that many teams really dedicated and committed to moving their ideas forward, and, being able to help them is incredibly rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, thank you again. Have a great day.
You're welcome. You too.
A huge thank you to Joanna for sitting down this week. EIRs like Joanna are an excellent resource for students who are just beginning their entrepreneurship journey or are looking for feedback and mentorship on advanced ideas. For more information on EIRs, you can visit innovation.pitt.edu/Big Idea Center. Once you are on our homepage, you can either fill out our new Get Started form or click on the Entrepreneurs in Residence tab. There, you will find short bios for each of our EIRs. You will also find links to their personal LinkedIn profile pages and direct emails. Using these links, you can get in contact with the EIR of your choice to set up an appointment. Well, that was a lot of information for one cup of coffee. I'm going to go make myself some more and then find some books to put in the background of my next Zoom call. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time on Big Idea Coffee Conversations.